Have you ever heard of these 6 mysterious candle tricks that everyone is now trying out? I would never have thought that you could do all this with normal candles. Let's start with number 1. Because did you know that you can use candles on your tap? This is particularly helpful if you regularly have limescale stains on your tap. Because you know the problem too. You've just cleaned it, but after you've used it a few times, those limescale stains appear on the tap again. And that's exactly what you can prevent with a conventional candle. However, you shouldn't use a colored candle like I did here, but a white one. Because that's the only way this trick really works. After all, we don't want to spread any color on our tap. So start by rubbing this candle over your tap. As you can see here, you will leave a thin layer of the wax on the tap. Of course, the whole thing doesn't look so good at first, but what we want to do now in the next step is to take a microfiber cloth and rub it over the tap until you can't see any more of the candle wax. You have really worked it into the tap and spread a thin layer over it. The advantage of this procedure is that you have sealed the tap. This means that the candle wax prevents water from sticking to the tap and it simply runs off. This means that limescale stains can no longer form. The advantage of this is that you now have to clean much less often, as you no longer have to remove limescale from your tap. After a certain time, of course, the whole thing will no longer last and you will have to rub the tap again with a candle. However, if you do this regularly, you can ensure that you will have to clean much less often in future. Another ingenious candle trick is to put a candle on when you are cutting onions, because otherwise the following happens. You grab an onion and want to cut it into smaller pieces. So you take a knife and start cutting the whole thing, but after a short time your eyes start to water. This is due to the gas in the onion, which is released when you cut it, and you can really prevent it with a candle. Simply take a tea light, place it on the board where you are cutting the onion and light it. The flame will now attract the gas and render it harmless. This will stop your eyes from watering when you cut an onion in future. At first I couldn't believe that this trick really worked, but it does, and I'll only do it this way in future. And as well as the tap, you can also rub your grout with a candle. To do this, wipe over all your joints once, so that they are free of dirt. They should also be dry, then you can grab a candle. Again, it should not be a colored candle but a white one. Ideally a stick candle like this. Now start rubbing the back end of the stick candle through your joints. You only need to wipe through the joints a few times and do this with all your joints. Once you've done this, take your finger again and rub it over the grout to remove any small residues directly. As you can see here, you have distributed a small amount of the wax in the joints. This procedure has also sealed your grout joints. This means that water can no longer stick so easily and will simply run down. The advantage of this is that your joints will get dirty much less often and more slowly. And you also ensure that mold cannot form in the first place. So give it a try and use candles to wipe the joints in the shower in particular. You can even use candles for your shoes. Again, use a light colored candlestick. This works best on patent leather or leather shoes. Carefully clean the shoe with a cloth and wipe them completely dry. Now rub the candle carefully over the shoe. Again, as you can see, spread a small amount of the wax. In the next step, you will need a hairdryer. Now go over your shoe with the hairdryer wherever you have spread the wax. This will melt it first and spread it well on the shoe. It's best to take a cloth and wipe the shoe well afterwards, as you don't want to see any more of the candle wax at the end. This has 2 immediate advantages. The first is that your shoes will now look really shiny and fresh again, and the second advantage is that you have sealed your shoes with the wax. This means that if water gets on them, it will simply run off and no longer stick to the shoe. You can therefore ensure that your shoes stay clean for much longer and don't get dirty so quickly. And if you have a zip that no longer closes properly or is stuck somewhere, you can use a candle for this. Grab another stick candle and rub it over your zip, preferably everywhere where it is stuck. Again, a small layer of wax will spread over the zip. Then go over it again with your fingers to completely remove the coarser residues. And if you now close the zip, you will notice that it runs much more smoothly. And the next trick will save you a lot of money. You should use these larger stick candles, preferably really cheap ones that you got somewhere in a discount store, and now you should put them in a pot, ideally in an old pot that you don't necessarily use for cooking anymore. Now put the whole thing on the hob and switch it on, because what we want to achieve is that the candle wax melts completely. After a certain amount of time you can remove the wicks, as we will need them in a moment. Now wait until all the wax has melted. Now you need some kind of glass to tip the whole thing into. A tea light jar is best suited for this. But first we want to place the wick in here. This has already hardened a little as there was still a small amount of wax around it. Now grab a cloth pack, fasten it here at the top and place the wick in a glass so that it sticks out a little at the top. You should now add an essential oil to the liquid candle wax. A few drops are usually enough. Once you have done this, you can now carefully tip this wax into the jar so that there is still a small amount of space at the top. Now it's time to wait, because in the next step the candle wax has to harden completely before we can use it. Once this happened, you can remove the cloth pack here. And now you've made a wonderful Sendon candle yourself and save some money, because Sendon candles are much more expensive than if you simply mix them yourself from cheap stick candles or leftover candles. Would you now also like to know why you should definitely put aluminum foil in boiling water? Then be sure to watch this video I'm linking to you here, where I show you how.